There are three types of events to consider when using the event decomposition technique to identify use cases: external event, temporal event, and state event. So you as the analyst begins by trying to identify and list as many of these events as possible and refining your list while talking to the user of the system. So an external event, it is an event that occurs outside the system, usually initiated by an external agent or actor. So an actor, we define that as a user or organizational unit that supplies or receives data from the user. To identify the external events, yes, the analyst first tries to identify all the external agents. So a classic example of an external agent is a customer. So the customer may want to place an order for one or more products for example, in an online shopping information system. So again, the customer may want to place an order, maybe for one or perhaps more products. And sometimes, let me write that, place, the customer may place an order. So sometimes the customer wants to return a product, or a customer needs to pay for an order. So external events such as this define what the system needs to be able to do. So they are the events that lead to more important transactions that the system must produce. So when describing an external event, it is important to name the event so the external agent is clearly defined. The description should also include the action that the external agent wants to pursue. Example with this. So thus the event, the customer places an order. So it describes the external agent or the customer and the action that the customer wants to take place that directly affects the system. Here is a list on how you're going to identify an external event. So first is that external agent or actor wants something resulting in a transaction. So for example, when a customer buys a product. So second, external agent or actor wants some information. So for example, customer wants to know product details. External data change and needs to be updated. So example, the customer has new address and phone, and management wants some information. So example is when a sales manager wants to update on production plans. So this here are examples of external events, and this sentence right here in color orange are the checklist for identifying an external event. So another type of event is the temporal event. So it is an event that occurs as a result of reaching a point in time. Many information systems produce outputs at defined interval. So for example, a payroll management system. So it produces a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month. or for each month. So sometimes the outputs are reports that management want to receive regularly, such as monthly or weekly reports. Weekly, for example, performance reports or exception reports. So these events are different from external events in that system because it should automatically produce the output, the required output, without being told. So it should be automatic. So in other words, no external agents or actor is making demands. So, but the system is still supposed to generate information or other outputs when they are needed. So the analyst begins identifying temporal events by asking about specific deadlines that the system must accommodate. So what outputs are produced at that deadline or that specific deadline, or what other processing might be required at that deadline. So in a payroll system, a temporal event might be named time, for example, time to produce bi-weekly payroll or by monthly payroll. So the event defining the need for a monthly summary report might be named time to produce monthly sales summary report. So those are examples. So this list, this checklist, you can use this checklist to identify temporal events. So the first is internal outputs. The first checklist is that internal outputs needed at points in time. So for example, management report or whatever report that needs to be delivered, it needs to be shown at a certain point in time. And another one is that external outputs needed at points in time. For example, the bills, reminders, notifications. So those are examples of temporal events. So temporal events do not have to occur on a fixed date. So they can occur after a defined period of time has elapsed. For example, a bill might be given to a customer when the sale has occurred. So if, for example, the bill has not been paid within 15 days, the system might send a late notice. The temporal event for that is time to send late notice. So that might be defined as a point 15 days after the billing day. So it doesn't need to have a specific date.